Hello and welcome to Denise Farquharson Coaching. This particular video is all about how motivation can drive your performance. It really depends on how you are directed, led, what drives you inside that actually affects how you perform. And so often we sometimes talk about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. That's great. What's going on the inside? How are you feeling? What's driving you from the inside, as well as what is driving you from the outside of you? But there is so much more to that than just being inside or outside, intrinsic or extrinsic. So let's just delve into the 7 different types I'm going to go through with you today. So type number 1, it's the type of motivation that's all about feeling achievement. Now, if you think about Richard Branson, think about the Virgin brand, have a look at all the different things that he does when he wants to get to space or go down into the ocean. And actually, he is driven by the fact that he can achieve something more for the world, to give back to the economy and be able to create something amazing. Now, if you are a corporate Christian woman, then you would probably have known about the actual parable of the man, 2 men, 3 men actually, who were given the talents by Jesus. The one with 5 went away and he doubled. The one with 3 went away and he did something with it as well. And the one with 1 talent went away and he buried it completely. Matthew 24, if you want to look it up. Jesus then looked at all 3 of these people and said, hang on a second, why did you go and bury it to the one who buried his one? And it's all about the fact that the one who was given the 5, the one who was given the 3, actually went out and made an achievement. It was the achievement that drove his motivation, which drove then performing, which drove an increase in interest in what he was given by Christ. And we are sometimes like that. What is it that is driving us to achieve something? That's our motivator, and that's what causes us to perform as well as we do. So then let's take motivation number 2. So that one is all about incentive motivation. So for instance, you are going to go and make £150 by investing £20. There's an incentive right at the very end. And that incentive, when you're thinking about it, drives the motivation and therefore drives the performance. And you then put more effort into achieving that, almost quadrupling your investment. And therefore that's classed as incentive motivation. So have a look, have a think. Is that the type of motivation that drives you to then perform? So then the other one is the motivation driven by fear. And when I say this, I don't mean it as if to be totally scared, but the parable or story I'm going to use this time is the story of Jonah. He had to go to Nineveh. He didn't really want to go to Nineveh, but God sent him there and he was going to cause an absolute explosion of the hearing about the word of God and impacting those people in that city, but he didn't want to go. He was totally scared. And sometimes it's the fear that sometimes drives our motivation. So let me give you an example. You have got a policy that you need to finish writing up, and the deadline is first thing in the morning, 9:30 meeting. It needs to be seen, read, understood, and maybe even signed off. You are driven by the fear of the fact that probably your boss is going to say something about, where's the policy then? Is it completed, for instance? Another example could be, something, I'm trying to lose weight. Everybody's trying to lose weight at some point in time, but you don't want to be seen in that holiday photo looking the way you look now. So that fear of seeing that photo is what drives your inner motivation and causes you then to start thinking, something, I probably better start eating healthy, because if I start eating healthy, that will then cause me to lose the weight. Therefore, I'll start looking the way I want to look, etc. So that is the third one, called fear motivation. And when you have that fear, does then that drive the performance for you? Have a think about that one. Number 4, type number 4, motivation, is the motivation driven by power. The power of being able to do something and create something and cause something to happen to a point where it then drives your performance. Now, the scripture I love for this is Philippians chapter 4, verse 13, where it says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Just that verse alone causes you to be so pumped up and strengthened and revived and rejuvenated that it causes you to really reach out and be so motivated that you just perform anyway, because you have such a belief in who you are and what you do and the power and the control that you can have over the task that you're trying to achieve. So that one is number 5, the power motivation. Actually, no, that was number 4. Number 5 is actually the affiliation and social. Now, this affects a lot of people. Every human being wants to feel needed. Every human being wants to feel loved. Every human being wants to feel connected. And sometimes that's what drives our motivation, in the fact that if I'm connected to someone, needing someone, involved and affiliated and socially directed and enveloped with other people and human beings, whether it's a charity, whether it's a marathon, whether it's developing something for the family or a business, then that actually drives some people to be motivated and therefore perform above and beyond the place where they would ever even expect. And that type of motivation is absolutely powerful. So have a think. Are you driven by the fact that you have that basic need and you like that basic human need to be fulfilled, of connection, human need, human touch, human association? And that is a real powerful motivating tool for you in order to perform. The next one then is number 6, is competence and learning. Now, I know a lot of people who they aim every year without fail to be studying something, learning something, educating themselves, or reading a ton of books because they love that whole essence of learning and educating themselves as much as they possibly can. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's what drives them. Is it what drives you? Is it what motivates you? And if it is, then that's another motivator that drives your performance, because when you're learning more, you give more. When you give more, you express more. When you express more, then you are sharing more knowledge to the world, to your company, to your team, to the people that you're associated with, that they can learn something as well. And the more that you give out, the more that you want to learn, the more education that you get, the more knowledge you gain, the more qualifications you gain. And that's really awesome. So if you are driven by competency and learning, and that's your motivator, hats off to you. Go for it, because you are the type of person who will always give and share what you've learned. And so without fail, this is the last one. Type number 7 is based on expectancy motivation. Now, this is the type where you will expect to deliver. This is a real tricky one. Sometimes you will actually adjust your behavior because you are expecting you to behave in a certain way, which then, when you do that, it changes the way that you are, and you're motivated in a different way, and therefore you perform in a different way. And it's not necessarily the expectancy of others, it's the expectancy of your behavioral change. So have a think about that. Do you adjust, switch, change, or mold your behavior in order to then be motivated to perform in a very different way in order to achieve your end goal? Absolutely. And there's no harm in that. But sometimes you've got to watch how much you change and how much you adjust in order to make that happen. Depends on what the goal is. Okay, so let's just go through those 7 again. First one is the one of achievement motivation. Then there is the incentive motivation. Then the third one, that's right, is fear motivation. Just double checking my notes. The other one for number 4 is about power motivation. Then there is also the type of motivation that is regarding affiliation and social connection, being around human beings. There's also the type of motivation to help your performance, which is number 6, which is to do with the competency and learning, getting to know and learn and gain more qualifications. And the last type of motivation, just to finish off, is the expectancy motivation. So think about any of those 7, and it could be a combination of 3 or 4 of them, which causes you to then be motivated to achieve, to go for those goals, finish those tasks, and then causes you to perform in such a way that allows you to be able to deliver to the best of your ability. So have a think about those. Contact me, denisefarquharson.com, or email me on denise@denisefarquharson.com, and let's talk, let's connect, and let me help and support